This is my demonstration for part two of the POE programming. So this is the main program which creates an instance that calls the main home screen or the main menu that serves as the core functionality for the app. So when the user first enters, there's so over here there was an instance created to call the user properties class, which has all the which has the list for the recipe, and then recipe stores all the lists that store the individual ingredients properties or characteristics. So the main menu will allow the user to add recipe, display recipe, search recipe scale, or remove the recipe. And it'll do this continuously until the application is actually exited with the do while loop. So if they enter case 6, the application will exit. And if they put anything that's not um, a valid input, would have enter one of the following options. And then the try catch, just in case they add maybe a letter instead of a number because the option is an integer. So in the add recipe, it prompts the user to give a recipe name, then a recipe instance is created, and then using this recipe name, so over here, I created a constructor that has a recipe name as an attribute. So over here, I use this recipe name that they provide over here. So then it prompts the users to enter their ingredient details. So the ingredient name, quantity, measurements, calories, and food group that it belongs to. Then it adds the recipe to the array lists that store the individual characteristics of the ingredient. And then it stores the original ingredient quantities in case they scale it and they want to revert back. Then this method over here, it's so if the calorie limit is exceeded, it will call this event. So it attaches the two methods together for the event. Then over here it checks if the calorie, so it's a method that checks if the calorie is greater than 300. The calorie total is greater than 300. Then it indicates to the user that the ingredients have been added properly. Then it asks the user how many steps they want to add, and then all the descriptions for the steps. Then it adds the steps to the list. Then it will indicate to the user that their steps have been added. And then using the recipe list over here, it every it adds a recipe to its own index. So it stores all the attributes to its own index, and then it indicates to the user that the recipe has been added properly. And if there's any errors when the user decides to enter, it'll tell the user that what they did was incorrect, and it'll give them and it will tell them in red, so it makes it more clearer to the user. Then over here, it will display the recipes. So if there's no recipes in the application, then it would say that there's no recipes. And then, but if there is, it would find that recipe name in the recipe list and then just display all of it. And then over here, it ensures that the recipe list is sorted in alphabetical order using the compare recipe by name method. So the recipe by name method, it compares. So there's a recipe X and Y created, and then using a string compare, which I had gotten from this man over here, Um, so it basically converts it into numerical so that it's able to compare the strings together because you can't compare without it being numerical. So that will just check if it's in alphabetical order. This allows the user to search for the recipe. Then there's also one for removing the recipe. Then this allows the user to scale for the recipe. And then over here is just a little method I added by myself. It's synonyms for maybe the word delicious. So yeah, so when the user displays the recipe, it'll be like how to make a delicious fruit salad, for instance. So it uses the random operator to do that. And then when printing the details, it prints all the details. So to say how to make a synonym, which is from this method over here. And then it'll leave a space and say the recipe name. It'll display all the ingredients from the quantities to the measurements to the name to the calories and the food group. And then on the outside of the for loop, it will indicate the total calories that the recipe has, and then it will display the steps, and then it will reset the color so that it ensures that the color doesn't carry on for the rest of the application. Then when searching for the recipe, there's a flag, a Boolean flag done to ensure that it allows the user to see, it allows us, the programs, to see if the application is if the recipe has been found or not. So it uses the recipe constructor as for help to get the list to find if the name is available within the list. So the string comparison ignore case is to ensure that the program is more user friendly. So if they add a capital letter, maybe when they were creating the recipe, they added a capital letter, but now when they're searching for it, they use a small letter. So it ignores the case sensitivity to make it more user friendly. Then over here is the main method to scale the recipe. It asks what they want to do. So if they choose option one, it'll scale by half. They choose two or three, it'll scale by two or three. And then all it is it takes ingredient quantities and then it multiplies it by the scale for in the loop. So for each ingredient quantity, it'll scale for each ingredient that it's in there. Then revert to original is a method in itself that will so it'll store the original quantities, then it'll revert it by taking ingredient quantities and instantiating it to the original values. And then it'll prompt to the user that the values have been um, reverted back to its original number. Then here's the method to check if the calorie limit has exceeded. So created a variable integer total calories. So the total calories is the sum of ingredient calories. And over here I checked if total calories is less than calorie limit, is greater than calorie limit, then it'll display it'll display to the user that you are exceeding your calorie limits of calorie limit, uh, and you're currently at total calories of whatever they are. So this calorie limit is the 300, and this is how much they have in their recipe. And then this is just to check, to invoke the check calorie. And then over here is the method to find total calories, which is exactly the same as before, except over here just returns total calories. And then the unit tests. So I hard coded the values of 120 and 80. So this is inside the calorie list. And then I created an expected output, which was supposed to be 200. So over here, the expected is 200. And then ingredient calories, that sum adds these two together, the 120 and the 80, to give it a 200. So then it ensures that the um, all tests are working properly, to ensure that the application test is working properly. So as you can see, the everything passed. And now when creating the recipe, it'll display to the user, do you want to create a recipe, display, search, scale, delete, or exit the application. So if they say, for instance, displayed all the recipes, it'll say, oops, sorry, no recipes to display. But when you're creating the recipe, it'll ask for the name. So fruit salad. And then it'll ask how many ingredients. Then you can just say two, and you can say apple, quantity of two, measurement of cups, the amount of calories. Then it'll ask for the amount of calories. So you can say 120. And then the apple belongs to fruits category. Then it'll ask for ingredient two, which would be banana. Quantity is one. Enter measurement, should be cups again. Enter the calorie amount, so we can just add something like 300 just to see the pop-up that it exceeds calorie limit. So it'll be a fruit as well. So over here it indicates you're exceeding the calorie limit of 300. You're currently at a total calorie of 420. And it'll indicate that it has been successfully added. So when you add a new step, say add apples and the non bowl. And then it'll indicate to the user that everything has been successfully added. And then if I had to display the recipe, it'll, in a color format, it would display a fruit salad, an exquisite fruit salad. It'll display all the ingredients, the total calories, as well as the steps. So if I had to create another one, let's just give it um, a beginning of A. Ingredients, salt, quantity 2, measurement, grams, amount of calories 2, salt belongs to salt, I don't know, 1. So when I display all the recipes, it will indicate that how to make A. So it's in alphabetical order. So I started off with F, and then it went, now A is in the top. So if I search for a recipe and I type in fruit salad, right, yeah, so it displays the fruit salad. If I say scale a recipe, type in fruit salad, scale it by 2, I display it. The fruit salad, all of their quantities are increased by 2. And then if I say 4, fruit salad again, reset to its original quantities, it will revert it back. So here it will be 2 and 1 again. And then if I delete the recipe fruit salad, it'll say fruit salad successfully deleted. And then if I display it, it'll just be the A left. And then it's just exit application after that. Thank you.